So today I'm going to discuss another major prominent topic, and the name of the topic, as you can see on the screen, is deconstruction. Okay, deconstruction. So as you can see that all these literary movements started after postmodern era. After the Second World War, we have structuralism before that, but after that we have postmodernism, and after that we have a very major movement in this particular movement, and the name of that movement is deconstruction. Okay, आप इसको एक movement भी बोल सकते हैं, एक concept भी बोल सकते हैं, because that movement or that concept particularly changed many theories. Okay, what we read in structuralism, in structuralism we read that there is a sign, there is a signifier, and there is a signified. It means through language we can perceive the whole world around us. A very major postulate by Ferdinand de Saussure. Okay, तो इस पोस्ट मॉडर्न एंड डिकंस्ट्रक्शन में हम क्या पढ़ेंगे कि जो आपका डिकंस्ट्रक्शन है ये क्या बोलता है. We all know that deconstruction is against the modernism. Why? Because here there is no focus on the language, there is no focus on the signifiers. Okay, so here is one simple thing, is that there is no absolute truth. These are one of the most important tendencies of postmodernism. Okay, there is no absolute truth. It simply means how interpretations are changed. After that we can also read that that there is endless play of signifiers. There is endless play of signifiers. So here is deconstruction, propounded by Jacques Derrida. Okay, deconstruction or post-structuralism or postmodernism are all belong to the same family. This is one of the most important factor too, that deconstruction or post-structuralism or postmodernism are all these things belongs to the same family. Okay, and next that all identities, presence and predictions rely on something outside of themselves for their existence. This is the approach of the postmodernism, that still you can see in this particular passage that it's talking about the existence. Okay, something that is absent and different from them. Okay, so something that is absence, there is no presence, something that is absent. Okay, चलिए आगे चलते हैं. So as we know that the deconstruction is propounded by the Jacques Derrida. Okay, one of the major figures in 20th century, 19th 20th century. Okay, Derrida is finally considered as the father of deconstruction. He is widely considered as the father of deconstruction, known for his major work like Cogito and the History of Madness, published in 1963, Structure, Sign and Play in the Discourse of the Human Sciences, 1966, one of the most prominent essays written by this person. And the essay he just presented at Johns Hopkins University. Okay, and everybody supposed that it is going to a seminar on structuralism, but suddenly Derrida started his new theme, and the name of the theme or concept is deconstruction or deconstructionism. Okay, there were many scholars are there, like Paul Dimon and Roland Barthes, prominent figures who belong to the category of post-structuralist. But okay, this is Structure, Sign and Play in the Discourse of the Human Sciences, a prominent essay by Jacques Derrida. After that, of Grammatology, 1967, another major work. Okay, and after that, Speech and Phenomena, 1967, and after that, Writing and Difference, that was published in 1967, and Margins of Philosophy, again it is published in 1972. The Postcard, 1980, Limited Ink, 1989, Right to Philosophy, and 1990. Okay, so this man has multiple works. Okay, Let's talk about his major theories and a major concept. Okay. So here is the major characteristics of deconstructionism or deconstruction. The concept of undecidability. The concept of undecidability. Deconstruction challenges the idea of a single fixed center of meaning. It means that it is challenging the idea of single fixed center of meaning. Okay, arguing that meaning is always deferred and open to multiple interpretation. It simply means that a meaning is open for multiple interpretations. Okay, here's another major topic: metaphysics of presence. Metaphysics of presence. Deconstruction critiques the metaphysics of presence, which is the idea that meaning is directly present in things or concepts. Okay, right now he's not talking about the language. He's not simply talking about the language, but he's just focusing on the conceptions or the ideas. He's simply putting that way that meaning is directly present in things or concept rather than being constructed through language and relationships. Okay, another very important postulate by this man. Okay, so this is his major quotation from his major work. Okay, nothing outside the text. And as you can see, on the opposite side is Jacques Derrida. Okay, nothing. There is nothing outside of the text by Jacques Derrida. Okay, let's go further. And here are quotes from Structure, Sign and Play. Okay, as I told you that Structure, Sign and Play is one of his most prominent works or essay. Okay, if we talk about deconstructionism. Okay, so what he just mentioned there, that the sign represents its presence in its absence. How beautiful it is. The sign represents its presence in its absence. Okay, so you can see there is a arbitrariness, but not in that way, but you can see that presence and absence. But the guy is mainly against the arbitrariness. You know, there is no fixed center, no fixed meaning. Okay, there is a good, bad. You know, it is a kind of arbitrary, good, bad. Okay, night, day, arbitrary. Okay, but through these arbitraries, we perceive the world or we cast the world around us. But he totally denied that concept. You know, there is no such thing as arbitrariness. Okay, but here he used the word, the sign represents its presence in its absence. Okay, after that, it takes the place of the present when we cannot grasp also the thing. When the present cannot be presented, we signify, we go through the detour of the sign. The sign in this sense is deferred presence. You know, after that we will going to talk about his main theories. You know, that talk about differ and defer. Differ and defer. That a word has a multiple meanings. A word has a multiple meaning, and there is endless, as I mentioned, endless play of signifiers. Let's go further. So here's outside the text. What is outside the text? There is no definitive interpretation of a text or idea, but rather multiple possible meanings that are always in flux. Okay, but rather multiple possible meanings that are always in flux. Deconstruction also emphasizes the role of the reader or interpreter in shaping the meaning of a text. You know, you can also see those kind of things in Roland Barthes' major works, where he talks about readerly or writerly text. But he's still talking about that here is the role of the reader. Okay, here in this theory, there is a role of the reader. He's an independent entity, and he has that power to define a text. Okay, to define or to interpret a text. Okay, so arguing that the reader's own biases and assumptions play a crucial role in the way a text is understood. So it is totally upon the reader how he is going to receive or perceive a text. or understand a text or interpret a text. It is totally on the reader. This is one of the most important features of post structuralist writer, that they just define the text and the person who is reading it, the reader. The text and the reader are the two different entities. This is one of the major features of post structuralist. Okay, after that चलिए आगे चलते हैं. तो chain of signifiers, chain of signifier. तो क्या बोलता है? Instead of a one-to-one correspondence between a signifier word and a signified concept, Derrida argued that signs only acquire meaning through their relationship to other signs. Okay, it simply means what? That a sign get their meaning. Okay, there is a relationship between all the words and all the signs, but creating an endless chain of signifiers. What we read in structuralism, there is a sign, okay, there is a signifier, and after that signified, that we read in structuralism. But here he opposes all these ideas. He is against all these ideas. He said that there is no such thing as sign, signifier, signified. Yet they never totally never totally denied all these concepts. But he said that sign or signifier is a kind of thing that endless, infinite, you could say, that a word is in relationship to the other word. Okay, and after that is creating an endless chain of signifiers. This is chain of signifiers. Let's go further. What is the concept of deconstruction? Okay, as we know that it is propounded by Jacques Derrida, but from which concept he just taken that inspiration, to write that particular concept? The concept of deconstruction is taken from the concept of destruction, by one of the most important writer, Martin Heidegger. Okay, existentialism. Okay, Martin Heidegger. Okay, I just told you that his two famous theories, okay, Dasein and authentic existence. Okay, he's talking about Dasein and authentic existence. ठीक है? तो ये आपका क्या था? ये कॉन्सेप्ट जो था आपका डिकंस्ट्रक्शन, ये कहां से लिया गया था? इट इज टेकन फ्रॉम मार्टिन हेडगर कॉन्सेप्ट डिस्ट्रक्शन. ओके, तो ये इंस्पिरेशन थी डेरिडा की. ओके, एक्सप्लोरिंग द अंडरलाइंग स्ट्रक्चर्स एंड अजम्पशंस. अंडरलाइंग something that is lying inside, underlying. Okay, चलिए. Next, okay, there is a essay written by Jacques Derrida, and the name of that essay is Plato's Pharmacy. Another important work, Plato's Pharmacy by Jacques Derrida. Okay, what he's talking about in his particular essay? Jacques Derrida was inspired by the idea of pharmakon. The pharmakon, if we talk about pharmakon, it is a Greek word, and which is a Greek word. It has two meanings. What? Remedy and poison. Remedy and poison. So how it is possible? A word has two meanings, remedy and poison, and the name of that word is pharmakon. So here, from this concept, he get that concept of deconstruction, that a particular single word has an endless relationship with other or different words, and the name of the theory is deconstructionism. Okay, so chaliye. Next, no fixity or center. This is one of the most important factor if you talk about structuralism or post-structuralism. Okay, that deconstruction is an critique of relationship between text and its meaning. Okay, deconstruction is an critique of relationship between text and its meaning. चलिए, but still he is talking about no fixity or center. आगे क्या है? Text meanings are undecidable. Therefore, there is limitless possibility of interpretations. Text meanings are undecidable. Therefore, there is limitless possibility of interpretations. Yet another assumption, okay, there is multiplicity of meanings. Okay, there are multiple meanings. Okay, okay, चलिए एक और कोट है, ये जानते हैं क्या लिखा है डरीडा ने. The entire history of the concept of structure must be thought of as a series of substitutions of center for center as a linked chain of determinations of the center. You know, in first two lines, he's talking about centers of centers. Okay, center for center, or one other thing you can notice here, substitution. You know, another word, there is a substitute for each and every word. Okay, so as a linked chain of determination of the center, successively and in a regulated fashion, the center receives different forms or names. Center receives different forms and name. What? There is no fixity, there is no center. Okay? Yes. Yet another some major prominent topics structure, sign and play. You know, there are major topics, there are major important note you can say take from this particular essay, structure, sign and play, that it was necessary to begin thinking that there was no center. Okay, that the center could not be thought in the form of a present being. The center had no natural site, that it was not a fixed locus. Locus, you know, these lines from structure, sign and play, you know, and he's talking about a locus, and he's telling us that there is not a fixed locus but a function. Okay, a sort of no locus in which an infinite number of sign substitutions came into play. Look at the line, look at the words. An infinite number of sign substitutions came into play. Okay, yes. This was the moment when language invaded the universal problematic. The moment when, in the absence of a center or origin, everything became discourse. Still, he is talking about substitutions. Okay, you can replace one word with multiple words. Okay, so this is your deconstructionism. Okay, let's talk about it further. Structure, sign and play in the discourse of human sciences. Okay, and where he just presented that essay presented at the John Hopkins University. Okay, which day? 21st October 1966. This is the proper date. Okay, of, and the essay, this particular essay you can find in his book of Grammatology, that was published in 1967. Another major works by Jacques Derrida. So why we are continuously talking about this essay, structure, sign and play? You know, in this particular essay he just defined the whole concept. As I mentioned that that was the seminar of structuralism, but very all the person gobsmacked by this particular action of Jacques Derrida, that he just starting his lecture on deconstruction, how to break the center. You know, and in that particular seminar, he just told that there is an event and there is a rupture. There is an event taking place and there is a rupture. So there is no truth or reality which somehow stands outside or behind language. You know, another famous quotation, there is no truth or reality which somehow stands outside or behind language. And after that, Derrida then introduces the idea that some event has occurred. You know, he's starting his lecture. Some event has occurred. This event is some sort of rupture or break. Rupture or break. You know, we just told we just talk about about the uh, deconstructionism. Right now we are not focusing on his major concepts. Okay, what is major concept or his major perception in this particular domain? So his major जो उसका theory थे जैक्स डेरिडा का, वो आपका पहला कौन सा है? इट इज अपोरिया. ठीक है, अपोरिया, a concept rooted in the ancient Greek philosophy. What is aporia? Aporia is a kind of puzzle or impasse, some sort of when you're going to interpret a text, you just have no meanings, or you have that thing, you are in puzzlement, you are in big impasse. Okay, so this is the main concept. Aporia, a concept rooted in ancient Greek philosophy, refers to a state of puzzlement or uncertainty. Okay, puzzlement and uncertainty. It's often used to expose the limitation of language. Okay, it's often used to expose the limitation of language and reasoning, comma, challenging our assumptions and encouraging deeper inquiry. So he's just telling that it's against the reason, challenging our assumptions and encouraging deeper inquiry. It means to dig out, what is lying behind or what is beneath the center. It's all about aporia. Okay. So here is aporia. In Derrida's view, every text contains aporia or points of undecidability. You can't decide or decipher a meaning. You can't decide a text, or it is not going to be very simple to interpret a text, because there is endless play of signifiers. There are many center. Okay, one word is going to replace another. There are substitutions. So this is aporia, puzzlement. Okay, so every text contains aporia or points of undecidability, where the meaning becomes unstable and multiple interpretations are possible. Okay, he's not talking about the one single entity. He's talking about the multiple entities and multiple interpretations. Okay, there is no fixed center. There are going to be multiple innumerable centers. Okay, yes. Difference is another postulate, a very major postulate. Let's understand it. What is difference? क्या है difference? Derrida creates a new term that is differ or differ. Means meaning is constantly deferred. A sign refers to other signs, is an endless chain of signification. A sign refers to other signs, is an endless chain of signification, creating a web of meaning that is not fully present or graspable. Okay, it means that I am going to create multiple meanings, and that is going to be what? Not graspable. Okay, creating a web of meaning that's not fully present or graspable. What is logocentrism or logocentrism? Means centrality of logos or reason. There is an assumption in Western countries that language can take us directly towards truth. In logos, you can is a Greek word. You can take the example of a fixed center. Before that, people think that there is a divine force. Okay, there is a divine force, and that is the ultimate truth of human life, or so to say, human beings. But if you talk about all the existentialists like Martin Heidegger, as I mentioned in my previous lectures, Martin Heidegger, Jean-Paul Sartre, Friedrich Nietzsche, they are also in indirect way, they are against the center. That divine force. They are all against the divine force. Here, Derrida is also talking about that thing, that Western countries, that language can take us directly towards truth. This is the biggest assumption before that. But after the postmodernism, these kind of assumptions are totally denied. He also privileges speech over writing. his major concept, phonocentrism. Okay, speech over writing. Why he just focusing on speech only? Literary concept that prioritizes the spoken word and written language as the primary means of understanding meaning. He says that a person who is talking face to face is the kind of real truth. Okay, but when you're writing something, okay, it does not present that real ultimate truth. Okay, so it means what mean literary concept that prioritizes the spoken word and written language as the primary means of understanding meaning. Logocentrism is the attitude that logos, the Greek term for speech, thought, law or reason, is the central principle of language and philosophy. Speech, thought, law and reason. This is going to be a new center. Okay, language and philosophy. He's talking about language and philosophy. Okay. So these are a major assumption or perceptions of Jacques Derrida. He's against all that methods, all that perceptions that your Ferdinand de Saussure postulated. Why there is no fixed center? Why a sign belong to or in relationship with multiple signs? The science of science, as we discuss it. What is it is called? It is called semiology. Semiology. After that, after Derrida, there are other thinkers like Paul de Man and most importantly Roland Barthes. Roland Barthes will talk about that death of the author. There is no such thing like author. There is only one entity, and that is man. And there is a big difference between a reader and a writer. Or there is a big difference between a reader or a text. His most important postulates that a reader and the text are the two different entities. Now, reader has that side that he can derive what he want to derive from a particular text. It is against the fixity. It means words on the page has no meanings. Only reader mind can accept all those things and convert that things into a beautiful and good or decent perception. This is all for today. Thank you.